So my goal for the Lsat would be a 160 to a 165. And after my first test, it was sub 150. So not great at all. So some of the questions that I have for you would be, what's an ideal time for Lsat prep? And if you could elaborate a bit more about, I was watching one of your podcasts, the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah, sure. So ideal time for Lsat prep in terms of just when to study?
Yes.
It's about your lifestyle and other obligations you have, but I would say fit it in wherever you can and for as long as you can. The students who do the best on this exam and reach their fullest potential typically study over a 5 to 6 month timeline, as I understand that you're doing, shooting for April, which is great, right? So
yes.
You've got plenty of time to master this exam. So I'd say just give it your all, squeeze it in where you can. What are your other obligations right now?
Well, I have a lot. I have a lot of obligations. I'm a mother of 5. I go to school full time, so I have a full course load right now. In addition to, I am an intern at our school's foundation. And then on top of that, I'm involved with activities on campus and then in the surrounding military community.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. That's a tremendous amount to have on your plate at once. And then to add LSAT on top of that, even more so.
Yeah. I have a full plate.
Yeah, you certainly do. So I would suggest, if you can, try to dial down some of those other obligations. Mm-hmm. I know that some of those are obviously not optional, but maybe some of them are, whether it's extracurriculars or the internship. I'm guessing that the kids are a fixed obligation, and I'm guessing that the course load is a fixed obligation as well.
Yes. Well, and that's why I've decided to take somewhat of a gap year so that I can focus after I graduate in the spring. So May 2020, I graduate. So the goal is to focus my LSAT prep like a part-time job as soon as I graduate, 20 to 25 hours a week minimum. And after I take the LSAT in April, I may have to, or I'm already focusing on taking it in July and possibly September.
Great. And so are you finishing classes this semester and then in the spring you'll be done with school?
In the spring, because of my internship, I only have 2 classes that I have to take for a full course load for scholarships.
Oh, good. So that should make things a bit more manageable then.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Great. Excellent. So it sounds like you're going to be able to make the LSAT more of a priority in the spring once this semester finishes.
Exactly.
Good. Yeah. So just squeeze it in wherever you can, on the weekends, before school, after school, before internship, after internship. Try to do as much studying out of the house as possible. So even if at your internship, for example, if you could find a conference room or a coffee shop nearby to do some studying before you get home, because I'm guessing with those kids running around, it's going to be very hard to do anything.
Yeah. I know one of the topics that I look for in LSAT blogs, and not just yours, is the non-traditional route. I'm sure there's plenty of other parents or just adults for that matter who are going and trying out law school. And I know it definitely feels like a lonely road. I'm not on top of going to law school. I'm also a first gen. And so it is a game that I'm just now navigating. So I guess that would be one of the points is advice for non-traditional students. Is there anything that you've seen over the years that seems to help, or if there's any books, besides your podcast, any advice, I guess, for us non-traditional students?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's great that you're giving yourself more time, because I think if you've been out of school for a little while or you just have other obligations, the LSAT is a harder journey. And so the fact that you're giving yourself more time to study is really the biggest thing, and you're already doing it. So that's excellent. Actually, it's funny you mentioned this, because inside the LSAT Unplugged Facebook community just yesterday, I think, someone posted about being a mother while studying for the LSAT. And
Nah,
several other
check it
students
out.
chimed in. So I would definitely suggest jumping in there and connecting with some of these other mothers who are going through the same struggles that you are, I guess, trying to balance everything, right? Because
Yes.
it is a lot. So,
And that's the biggest one is balance. How do you balance prep on top of, if you're going to school, on top of your course load, and then you have LSAT prep, and then on top of that, work and family and everything else that life wants to throw your way.
yeah, well, I think dialing back some of the other obligations wherever possible, like I said, is definitely a good thing to do. So the fact that you're going to have less going on spring semester, I think will make things a little bit easier. And then on top of that, just getting support from friends, family, significant others, everyone surrounding you, getting them to help out so that you can devote some time away from from your previous obligations to LSAT.
Yes. Okay. And I see that as being doable. So, well, that's good.
Great. Yeah. So that's my biggest advice there, honestly.
Okay. So I took the September 2019 LSAT. Ugh, flowers. And I found that my weakest section was logical reasoning. I guess, how do I overcome this hump?
Yeah, well, logical reasoning, it's half the exam. It's certainly harder to improve upon than logic games. And so it's about just exposing yourself to the wide variety of patterns they test on this exam in terms of methods of reasoning in the stimulus, and also in terms of the wide variety of question types.
Okay. One more point that I wanted to touch on. So I'm taking the LSAT, I'm taking prep tests. And I guess my biggest question is, how is the best way to review them? After I've taken them and I go back and look and see the ones I got wrong, I don't think I'm doing this properly. What is a really good way to review my LSAT practice tests?
Sure. So I'll take logical reasoning as an example. So you got this logical reasoning question that you got wrong or you had difficulty with. First thing is you got to see where your misunderstanding stemmed from. Was it the stimulus, the question stem, or the choices? If it was in the stimulus, you want to figure out, well, what's the conclusion? What's the evidence? What's the general method of reasoning? Could you paraphrase it? Could you put it in your own words and even explain it to someone else, or write out your thought process to prove that you truly understand it? Then you also want to look at, was it the question stem? A lot of question stems use unfamiliar wordings to describe a still fairly typical question type. So you want to make sure that you've properly ID'd what question type it was: strengthen, weaken, necessary assumption, and so on.
Okay.
Then if it was in the answer choices, you want to see what was tempting about the wrong answer that made you pick it, and what ultimately made it wrong. And what's discouraging about the right answer that pushed you away from it, and what ultimately makes it correct.
Okay, that makes sense. I haven't done that, but it makes sense. Another thing I wanted to bring up was if there's any plans to do a 1-year study plan. I know that it's brought up that you should focus at least 3 to 6 months, but for those who are planning a little further out, I know I've spoken to you about this before, but if there is I don't know if it's more of a detailed plan or just one where it's fairly lax in what to do the year before you take the LSAT. I wish, well, and that's let me back up. I am going to take a year to focus now on LSAT prep. I have no problem in admitting that I took the LSAT for granted and figured, you know what, I'm pretty good at standardized tests, so I can do this. No, I was so wrong. I need the prep. And so I'm focusing a lot on your course schedule. And then I went to, and I purchased some practice tests. Beyond that, what are some other things I can do? I mean, taking a full length test maybe once a month, or what are some tips?
Sure. So I would suggest, I haven't created a 1-year study plan yet, although I do plan to. For now, I would say work through the longest term plan right now, which in the course is a 6-month plan, work through that at a relatively slower pace. And you can also add in more practice problems of each type. The schedule ultimately is more important for the level of specificity it contains about what to do than the particular day-by-day breakdown. And realistically, over the course of an entire year, there's already going to be holidays, vacations, sick days, and so on, plus family obligations too will take a lot of time out of that as well. So there might be a week where you don't get to do anything at all, and that's okay. You don't need to do something every week over the course of an entire year. And I wouldn't want you to necessarily have to hold yourself to that standard, because there are always going to be more pressing things in the short term. But having that roadmap of saying, okay, well, do these lessons in the course, then watch these videos, then complete these practice problems, at least giving you something specific to do, I think will give you a little bit more accountability and allow you to avoid burning through practice material for nothing.
Okay, I can do that. That seems to make more sense than having a detailed 52-week plan that I focus entirely on. Okay, that's doable.
Sure. And then the other thing I would say is, as for taking the time to exam a week, I wouldn't do that just yet until you've already built a strong foundation in each of the different sections.
Okay.
After you've built a foundation in games, though, certainly do some timed logic game sections, and same for the others. But I wouldn't want you to do the sections prematurely.
Okay. So I'm focusing on taking the April LSAT, and then I'll take the July LSAT too, just in hopes of getting a better score with the September and October application dates for 2020. Let's see, what else do I have up here? I mean, I guess the biggest one is it's the course schedule, the cheat sheet, and then the podcasts and the blogs have been instrumental in making me feel that I am making the right choice for the LSAT. Well, not the LSAT, but LSAT prep. Definitely going the right choice of having a schedule. I know for me, I need a schedule, and it's very helpful. And with the blogs and the podcast, it's motivating. So thank you.
I'm really glad to hear it, Veronica. What would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
Today, it would have to be, I guess, for the course schedule, that it's okay to build in some time for life. I was pretty focused on, well, this is what I have to do at this time, and this is what I have to do. I guess keeping it a very structured schedule, and I guess it doesn't have to be. It can adapt to my life. It can adapt to my kid's life, and then everything else that's going on. I like these one-on-ones for, I guess, to check in. I had mentioned that, I mean, being a first gen, there's no one in my family I can talk to about this. And I don't have the friends that I have, they're going to engineering or they're going to pre-med. So law school is just not even close to their horizon. And I think it's important to do these chats so that you have that human connection too.
Great. Fantastic. Well, please keep in touch and let me know if you need anything as you move forward.
Of course. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.